What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Go Talk with Marcus, powered by Podex, fueled by Go Fuel. As you can see, we're running 6 deep tonight because we got a good show for you today. Payton Doyle, the Payton Doyle Show. Blaine Spencer, the Final Whistle Sports Pod. Jerem, one half of Stuff About Sports. Neil, the man behind the scenes at the hashtag This Justin Sports Show. And our good brother, Steezy A. Smith. What's up, fellas? How we doing tonight?
West.
Good, man. Good. Glad to be here. Feeling like the Brady Bunch with all 6 of us here. I feel like a little grid,
Just vibing.
Yep.
Well, we know that the happiest member of the show tonight is obviously Blaine Spencer because his Golden State Warriors have their 4th ring now in 8 years, in their 6th finals appearance. And there are a lot of things to talk about. Obviously, the face of the franchise and the person to thank for it all is one Steph Curry, who finally got that elusive finals MVP after the Warriors defeated the Boston Celtics. So, Blaine Spencer, since you are the Warriors fan, we will start with you. Is Steph Curry now officially top 10 all time?
Oh yeah. Actually, no. I would still have as a unbiased standard. I'm actually gonna say that he's still just on the outside looking in. I think he needs one more. I do sometimes, as a diehard sports fan, I am not complaining that we won 4 in 8 years, but I do give a little bit of an asterisk, in my opinion, to the Kevin Durant years, just because of how pretty much unstoppable they were. And it kind of was unfair to the NBA. So I do hold that accountable a little bit. I still have him around. I have Steph at about 12 right now, personally. He gets one more. I think it'll be pretty much a wrap. But I think he still will move into the top 10 with the next couple of years, even if he doesn't win another championship, regardless. But at this very moment, I would say, no, he's still on the outside looking in, and all my Warriors friends will now backlash me on social media for the next 3 hours. So it's all good.
Jerem on Monday was a guest on Justin's show, and I didn't watch it, but Jerem said that in his promo for his own guest spot, said that he's got someone that's out of the top 10, and I'm so interested to know who you have Steph Curry jumping over to put him now in the top 10 all time.
It's changed. No, it didn't. Bill Russell.
I was just about to say it. That was Monday.
Nah. I did think about it, and I was like, man, am I tripping? And then I did my deep dive, and I said, no, Bill Russell, get out of here. Steph Curry is definitely in the top 10. Okay, and honestly, I've actually talked myself into a more argument, which makes me even more mad at Justin Marvel. All right, my thing is, what are you going to say now about Steph Curry? 8-time All-Star, gotcha. 8-time All-NBA, gotcha. 4-time champion, gotcha. 2-time MVP, gotcha. NBA's all-time three-point leader, gotcha. And now Finals MVP, gotcha. Steph made Draymond Green and Klay Thompson Hall of Famers. The reputation that Harrison Barnes still lives off of was built by Steph Curry. Fellas, my last argument. The list of players with league MVP and 4 titles include LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe, Magic, Tim Duncan, and Shaq. What are all those names have in common? All 8 of those names have in common. They're consistently in anybody's conversation for top 10 spots in the greatest ever list, right? So Steph and that's 8 names. So by simple math, I'm not a boy genius like Dwayne Marcus here. Okay? That means there's 2 open spots in the top 10.
Yeah.
And that leaves Stephen Wardell Curry in the top 10 and not Bill Russell. Sorry, buddy.
Well, I'd say to Justin all the time, if Bill Russell's in his top 10, then of course Steph's going to be in top 10 because I don't think Bill Russell's top 10 all the time. Neil, Steph top 10 all time?
No, and it pains me because when I saw this question, I remember the show on Monday with Justin, and I have to agree with what Justin said on that show, where he is just outside looking in. And I think that as much as he has the accolades, he has changed the game. He is prolific in his scoring. I think he is just a hair outside of that top 10, simply because the players that we mentioned before, right? I mean, obviously we got Jordan, LeBron, we got Bird. We have all of these names that you can throw around. Steph Curry, I feel as though if he can win one more championship, or to me, any other accolade, like whether it's MVP, if he wins another finals, more than likely it'll be a finals MVP. I think then for sure, not only is he going to be in the top 10, he's going to be well into the top 10. He's not going to be just number 10. But I think right now, he is just on the outside looking in. There are several factors for that. One of them being, as Blaine said, the Kevin Durant years kind of, it depends on the day, because I hold it against him and then sometimes I don't hold it against him, simply because it is not an individual sport. And we had teams like the Bulls and the Celtics and all of these other teams that were prolific. But I think that if you're looking at putting him into the top 10, as Justin said, again, I hate to agree with Justin, if I could think of 10 names that had more of an impact on just basketball on and off the court in the era they played and everything like that. Obviously, in this era, one thing I do lend to Steph is that he's playing in one of the greatest eras, if not the greatest ever era in basketball. Justin would disagree, which is crazy to me. He said something wild on Monday, something like the 80s was the golden era of basketball or one of the best decades or whatever. And I'm like, my man, right now you are witnessing, you have guys that are literally eighth on the bench, coming off the bench, and these men back in the 80s would probably tear it up. But for me, Steph is prolific. Steph is amazing. When Steph is on the court and Steph has it going, there is no team ever, like only the Monstars could beat them from Space Jam. But to me, I could think of 10 other careers, 10 different names. And again, this is not a contentious argument. It's not like Jerm said he's top 10. I'm not saying Jerm is blasphemous or whatever. To me, if you have him in his top 10, in your top 10, that is fine. I have no problem with that. But for me, I can name 10 other players that had a far-reaching impact on winning, the accolades, and on the sport on and off the court, more so than Steph Curry. Steph is there. He's almost there, but it's like a shade out of the top 10 for me.
Steezy, is Steph Curry in your top 10 all time at this point in his career?
Wow. I was on that show with Jerm and Neil, and so they probably have a good idea of where I'm going. But I have a couple of new facts to bring to the argument. Before I answer your question, Dwayne, I wanted to bring up a couple of names: Stephen A. Smith, Chris Broussard, Shaquille O'Neal, Reggie Miller, Jerm, and Steezy A. Smith. What do all those names have in common?
Legends.
on top of that, facts. But on top of that, we all agree, we all acknowledge that Stephen Curry is, yes, undoubtedly, undeniably, and unequivocally a top 10 player in the history of the NBA. Now, to Neil's point, he talked about how, and I agree with him, I think this is the golden era of NBA basketball. And so Stephen Curry, the leader of this dynasty, I believe this dynasty is top 3 in all-time dynasties. And so it's kind of hard for me to omit, the best player on a top 3 dynasty of all time from the top 10 list of all time. Not only that, to Neil's point yet again, Steph Curry is also beaten in their prime or has won a title in the same era as LeBron, KD, Giannis, Kawhi, Embiid, Dame, James Harden, PG-13, CP3. Most of these guys are on the NBA 75 list. And to Neil's point, I think that was Blaine who was discrediting Steph's rings with KD. Are we discrediting Kobe as well? Because Kobe won 3 rings with Shaq. And so Steph, I get it. He lost those 2 finals MVP to KD and he lost one to Iggy. But even though he lost the finals MVP to Iggy, he was still the best player on that team. So we can say that Steph was the best player on 2 title-winning teams, minus the KD, Warriors-led teams. And so Kobe, he also has 2 titles as the best player, on those teams. And so with a Steph, I'm not going to hold that against him. Not only that, again, to Neil's point that we're playing or we're witnessing the golden era of basketball, Steph Curry has the only unanimous MVP in the history of the NBA. And there's guys like MJ, there's guys like Kareem, there's guys like Bron, Magic, Bird, Tim, Kobe, Shaq, the list goes on. None of them ever did that. None of them. And so I think there's a lot of weight in that accomplishment. There's a lot of weight in the fact that he's the all-time leader, not just in regular season three-point shooting, but in the postseason. And so you couple all those things together. You look at the fact that he only has 1 finals MVP, but he was the best player on 2 title-winning teams. He's also on the NBA 75 list, greatest shooter of all time, unequivocally, undoubtedly, undeniably. For all those reasons, including more, yeah, Steph Curry is absolutely a top 10 player of all time with a chance to climb even higher on that list. And actually, one more thing before Payton goes. I think the only thing that's really missing on Steph's resume are the cumulative stats, because when you look at his career point totals, he's 47th all time as far as points go. But then a guy like a Larry Bird, who's a consensus top 10 player of all time, he played the same number of seasons as a Stephen Curry, but he's only 36th all time in the all-time points list. And so I can't look at cumulative stats and be like, oh, because of that, Steph's out of the top 10. Bird's in the top 10, and his cumulative stats have him at 36 all time on the all-time point scored list. And so outside of that, I mean, what else they gonna say?
Yeah, I'm kind of going last here, so I'm kind of getting everyone's leftovers. But I definitely think Steph Curry is a top 10 player of all time. I feel like we can hold the KD years against him, but let's be honest, this dynasty does not happen without the brilliance of Steph Curry. This was Steph Curry's dynasty. Oracle Arena was the house that he built. He made the Warriors the Warriors. Let's be honest here. And now Steph Curry has 2 titles without Durant as the clear-cut best player on the team. I get that Iguodala won the MVP the year they won in 2015, but we know Steph was the reason that they got there. He was the best player on that team. And KD, to be honest, hasn't won jack without Steph. So let's be serious here. If we're going to start pointing fingers as who made who, let's be serious. KD had to join them after they won 73 games the year before to actually win any championships. Now that he's gone, he's flaky everywhere else he's been. He hasn't performed as his talent says he should. Let's be serious. Let's be honest. Steph Curry's an overachiever. Every expectation given to him since he's entered the league in day one, he has smashed that and exceeded every single expectation. KD hasn't. That's why Steph Curry ranks above him. He was the best player on all of those teams, including the teams that won with KD, in my opinion. I think without Curry, we're not here. We're hearing KD as maybe a one-time champion instead of 2-time. So with all that said, how many players, like Germ said, have 4 rings and aren't in the top 10? Like none. Everyone who has these amount of accolades, Germ basically gave this man's whole freaking resume. How can you say that's not top 10? Steph Curry, now he has the finals MVP, just what he needed to complete almost really everything. He's top 10.
And that finals MVP is a media fabrication. He didn't need that. Like, LeBron averaged 30 whatever points. Iguodala just stopped him on some key plays, and that finals MVP is just some propaganda. The NBA just has to hoist a trophy up to give to the best player of the series, and it's not about who plays the best. It's about who made the biggest impact. And defensively, the only thing you had to really worry about was stopping LeBron. That was Iggy's job, and that has been Iggy's job his career since Philadelphia. His job was to guard the best players. He guarded Kobe's. He guarded everybody. So that really wasn't a surprise. But Blaine, Neil, it was interesting that you said that you hold those years against that KD was there against Steph. Actually, to me makes it better, because that also proved that he could take a secondary seat and still produce. 2016 to 2019 was when KD was there. Steph averaged 30, 25, 26, and 27 points still. These last 3 years, he averaged 20, 32, and 25. You could argue that he was better. He was better when KD was there. And so it wasn't like, and either way, I mean, you're splitting hairs. It wasn't like a tremendous drop off. KD just added to what they had. The fact that Steph could be a 1B in some instances, because Kevin Durant is a tremendous player. He's probably the most skilled scorer I've ever seen. He's had some bad luck with teammates. Cancer Kyrie, he's doing it again. Now he has Ben Simmons. That Brooklyn Nets thing is a disaster. I do feel bad for Kevin Durant, but I think if Kevin Durant was swapped with Steph Curry, and if we went back in time and put KD on the Warriors, and KD had these Warriors all throughout his career, and Steph was out teaming up with Kyrie and whatever, I think KD could have 4 rings with that team, with that coach. So I don't want to hold anything against Steph or Kevin Durant, but I just wanted to point out that to me, Steph acknowledging KD was the superior player. KD was the best player in that run, and still Steph was basically doing the same thing he's doing now. To me, makes it even more impressive.
I just want to pose a question to you guys before Marcus takes over here. So I'll make valid points, but my question would then be, the crunch time scenarios in those championship runs up until this past one, where he pretty much was on a different level at the end of games, right? I know the argument would be that he was deferring to Kevin Durant for those 2 runs, right? But then in that first run, you have those Game 6 Clay. You can also make that argument of that. And then also it was Draymond making some critical passes, finding Iguodala. He made a couple clutch shots on top of guarding LeBron full time. But more than anything, that would be my question to you guys who are put him on his top 10. I can't argue against anything that you guys said, right? I think I hold a little bit more of a bias because of a Warriors fan, because I would put him probably number 1 if I had if I was on a fan mindset. So I just wanted to open that to you guys.
Well, if I can answer that question, I think first things first, here's why, because I didn't mention this before. The reason why I don't like necessarily these questions like greatest of all time or top 10 is because it's a team sport. At the end of the day, Shaq doesn't get on a top 10 list without Kobe. Kobe doesn't get on a top 10 list without Shaq. Great. I mean, these guys are great individually, yes, no doubt. But at the end of the day, that's why I say when it comes to the KD argument, some days I would be like, yeah, I don't count those rings. And then sometimes I'd be like, so what? Because if KD decided to join them, you can hold that against Steph. Like, that's not necessarily fair because at the end of the day, it's a team sport. I think that for me, I think for me, the reason why I don't put Steph in there just yet is I think the history of it. I know Jerm said that the MVP, the finals MVP is a propaganda machine. And, we can argue that, or we could agree to that to some degree. But I think with Steph in the first championship, granted Iguodala, he made great plays, but Iguodala, with him slowing down LeBron James, not stopping LeBron James, with him slowing down LeBron James, it opened up them having success. KD came and he had to defer to KD because he wanted to win more so than have the individual accolades. I can't hold that against him. But to me, if let's say they get next 2 seasons, they go back to the finals and then they win another championship and he is the best player, not necessarily MVP ish, not necessarily the MVP, but he has another prolific season, another prolific postseason, and another prolific finals. Then it's like he has 5. He has been clearly the best player on on most of those teams, and he can now sit at the table with the other guys in there because Jerm just gave the stats with KD. Now, for me, I think it was the first season KD went there. I honestly thought Steph was the better player on that team, simply because in that third quarter in that season, yeah, Durant would have his 30 or whatever, but Steph would go insane during the third quarter and take over games, particularly in some of the early playoff runs. So to me, that's why I say, guys, this is not one of those things where I think that anybody puts Steph in their top 10 that I am talking crazy. It's like the Kobe Bryant argument, right? You put Kobe Bryant in your top 10, that's fine. If you don't put Kobe Bryant in your top 10, I can understand because you can list 10 names. Again, it's very subjective. You can list 10 names, and depending on what era of basketball you watched or what you hold in esteem in terms of stats versus impact versus accolades or whatever, you will come up with different top 10s. I think everybody has universally Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, LeBron James, Shaq. People have universal people in there, but then you have the Steph, you have the Larry Bird, you have the Wilt, depending on what you hold in esteem, Bill Russell, depending on what you hold in esteem. So like Steph goes into that kind of melting pot of those players where, shoot, tomorrow I may wake up or next season, I may be saying a different tune halfway during next season, depending on how Steph comes out. But I think let us not get lost in the fact that having Steph in or not having Steph in, he is a great player. He's an impactful player. The stats are there. The accolades are there. This man, I have seen done things in basketball that don't make sense to me, and he is undersized. He plays so far away from the basket. He has Jordan Poole playing just by being around him every day, seeing how he and Clay. Jordan Poole look like the second coming of if he stays out the sun for another 2 weeks, he can probably be just as light-skinned as Steph, and he'd probably be mistaken for Steph Curry. He has number 3, which is, a derivative of 30. So to me,
they made him a Splash Brother. He's like officially part of the Splash Brothers, which is nuts to me.
Right. Like, you cannot deny his impact. And to me, I feel as though, as much as this could be something that we can have a huge heated debate over it, I am good either way. It's just for me, I just want to see Steph. I just want to see him kind of. He did it this season. Let me see him do it, in the next championship run if he has another one. No, if his career ends, let's say for whatever reason his career ends, he's unable to perform or play at that level again, and he goes down, then a different conversation has. I guess for me is it's kind of bookended. He has more to accomplish, and I know he has more that he can accomplish before I put him cemented into that top 10. I don't even feel like Steph should be, if I put him in the top 10, he's number 10, because if you can put him in, you can put him on at 7 or something like that. I don't know, man. It's going on and on, but it's very subjective for me, and I'm cool either way.
Steph's not in my top 10 all time. I mean, that's not really news.
Surprise.
He's not in my top 10. He's number 11, whatever. Like big whoop. I don't know. It's not one of those things where I'm gonna kill you. This is what I do want to say about the Steph Curry being top 10 or not argument, and it's something that I feel like it's the thing to say when you're talking about a guy like Steph, and it's 100% true. But I don't think it applies when you're talking about the greatest players to ever play the game of basketball. Steph Curry absolutely has revolutionized the game of basketball. The game of basketball obviously looks a lot different than it does because of Steph Curry, right? Like we all know that. We all recognize that. In my personal opinion, revolutionizing the game of basketball does not make you a top 10 player of all time. That's just my personal opinion. That makes you one of the 10 most impactful players of all time. That doesn't make you one of the 10 best guys to ever put a ball in your hands and step onto the hardwood. Not that I hold that against Steph anyway, but I feel like that is a argument that we kind of shove in there is to kind of bolster Steph's status, and that's cool. He has absolutely revolutionized the game of basketball, right? He is the greatest shooter of all time. We have not met the person that will break Steph Curry's 3-point records in the playoffs or all time, if that person will ever exist. And chances are that person will likely never exist. But citing Steph Curry as being a revolutionary in the game of basketball doesn't make him top 10. The only other thing I want to say, and I'm not going to get too much into it, Payton, you mentioned Kevin Durant not having won anything since leaving Golden State. And it's true. It is 100% true, but I feel like we have to look at this and let's be serious here for a second, right? So Kevin Durant, the first year he leaves Golden State, he didn't play basketball because he was coming back from the Achilles, right? So he's really only played 2 years outside of Golden State. Fine. Last year, so not this season, but season before last, Kevin Durant played really good basketball. Kevin Durant was, up until I would say the tail end of the season when things kind of started to sputter. Anyway, for me personally, I had Steph Curry in the MVP conversation somewhere in there. He was playing phenomenal basketball, made it to the playoffs. And while he did lose to the eventual champion Milwaukee Bucks, I think we can all acknowledge, and the what if game is a dangerous game to play, but I think it's something that you have to look at and be serious. Like James Harden was a shell of himself and Kyrie Irving wasn't playing basketball. So and the Nets were heavily favored to win the championship or at least be going to the finals with just KD and Kyrie. So you add James Harden, and we all saw what happened with the sports books all over the place and what the talking heads on the media were saying, oh yeah, book it. Like they're going to the finals, and then everyone gets hurt. And then this year, you had the whole Kyrie thing, and then you had the James Harden forcing his way out. I feel like KD leaving Golden State is not a product of KD wanting to leave Golden State. And maybe it is, as much as it is a product of everyone saying to KD, yeah, these 2 championships are great, but until you go win on your own, they'll mean nothing. Like we as fans and members of the media kind of forced Kevin Durant out of Golden State because that's all anyone was saying. Like, you're a 2-time champion. That's great. And all you ever saw in any type of basketball conversation was, oh, well, Kevin Durant stole these 2 rings because he went to go join the Golden State Warriors with Steph, Clay, and Draymond and those boys. And whether you truly believe that or whether you're just being a troll, like, I'll always defend Kevin Durant because I love Kevin. Kevin's fantastic. But in this particular, and sometimes, you gotta not cut him some slack. But in this particular situation, we're talking about Kevin Durant's lack of production outside of Golden State. I think we have to look at it from the big picture and realize that, at least for me, the big reason why Kevin Durant hasn't won a championship is because of injury, whether it's his injury or injury of the guys around him. Like, he hasn't won championships. Like, LeBron's fantastic. LeBron was the best player in the world, you could say, in 2014. He didn't win a championship, or in 2015. He didn't win a championship in 2015 because Kyrie and Caleb were hurt, right? Steph goes back to the finals in 2019. Oh, they would have beat the Raptors if KD and Klay Thompson didn't get hurt. Like, injury does play a massive factor in it, not just for Kevin Durant, but also for he himself. I think that's kind of glossed over. And also, like I said, we forced Kevin Durant out of Golden State. Like, sure, Kevin Durant and Draymond Green relationship probably wasn't the best, and obviously that is a reason why he left truly, and it makes sense. But if you're Kevin Durant, all you're hearing is, oh yeah, these championships in 17 and 18 mean nothing because you went and you joined a 7-3 win basketball team that beat you on the road to their finals, and now you're going to go join them. Like, these championships mean nothing. That's what everybody was saying. He left to appease the media or whatever. Like, let's not be so hard on KD not having won a championship.
But KD's a grown man. Like,
He's
he
a
made the decision.
Oh, you're right. No, he did make the
Like,
decision. I agree with you. He's a grown man. He
you
can
know
do
what
that.
I mean? Like,
But I just think that those things matter. Like, Kevin Durant hasn't won a championship, and it's a dangerous game to play, but we could play this game. If Kyrie and James Harden aren't hurt last season, the Nets probably win the finals in 2021. Like, we're not the Bucks aren't going to the finals and winning it if those two guys are healthy. Like, that is so. While yes, Kevin Durant doesn't have a ring or doesn't have a trip outside of the first round since leaving Golden State. Again, a lot of that has to do with injury to himself because he missed the bubble year because he was hurt, and then also injury to the guys around him. And then this year, Kyrie just deciding not to play for the first 50 games of the season or whatever. Like, I think those things matter when we're trying to talk about Kevin, because at this point it's becoming a Kevin Durant legacy issue. And I've got a show coming out about it where I deep dive with someone very special to me. But like, I just feel like we gotta recognize that as a reason why Kevin Durant hasn't won a championship yet.
We need to give Kyrie a little break. The rings of
Sure.
Saturn were in retrograde, and he had to align his chakras with the universe.
He had to do a lot of aligning of the trackers and all that stuff. Yeah.
But what I would say real quick, what I would say in defense of Kevin Durant, right? I don't necessarily think it's that people had a problem with him going, because if he wins with Kyrie and let's say Ben Simmons wake up one day and decide, you know what, I am all of a sudden want to play basketball again and I'm going to be as good as everybody told me to be. And they win a championship, they build a team around and win a championship. KD is still winning with immense talent around him. I think the problem KD faced is that he went with such an undeniable force in Golden State. Right. I think and that's in defense of him, because at the end of the day, and that's why I don't feel bad for KD. This is gonna kind of go back to damaging KD, because guys, we've all made the decision. We are gonna leave our team that we are not winning, and we're gonna go with a 73-10 team that has two of the greatest shooters of all time and a system that is so good any and everybody can flourish in it. We go to this team and we immediately get success. We win 2 championships. We get 2 finals MVPs. Guys, are we leaving? We are on Twitter and people are saying, you need to go and win it by yourself. You're not the man. Those don't count. Are you guys really going to say, you know what, you're right, I'm going to leave and go and forge my own team with a crazy Kyrie Irving? And I'm sorry to have to say crazy like that. I'm saying it tongue-in-cheek. I don't like to talk about people's mental health or whatever, but Kyrie is indeed, for a basketball player, insane. You're gonna leave.
Yeah, you're in luck. I was about to say, Neil, because I love doing that type of stuff.
I think for
is a
KD,
nut job.
well, I think for K, I think what it comes down to, like we've seen this movie before in a way, with not to I don't, maybe you think this is a brash comparison, but I don't think it is. I think it's a comparison that fits, right? LeBron James left Cleveland to go to Miami, and similarly, all everyone could say was, it's nice that you've gone out to win a championship with D-Wade and had to form this team to win a championship and kind of be unbeatable, but until you do it on your own, what does it really matter? So what did LeBron do?
So what is the difference? So
in a way,
I can tell you what's the difference.
So what I'm saying is for Kevin Durant, like as a competitor, like yes, he's absolutely right. You are right, Payton. He's a grown man, and well, I'm the youngest one here. All of you gentlemen here are grown men, right? And there are a lot of grown men watching this show, right? And grown men are responsible for their own decisions, and they're responsible to deal with the consequences of their actions, as are all adult human beings, right? But as a competitor, right, as someone that, like, Kevin Durant knows who he is, and Kevin Durant you know Kevin Durant thinks he can be whatever you want to say, can be the guy on a championship team. Like that's a Kevin Durant thing of like, yeah, well, if you guys feel that that's like, I'll prove it to you. Like I Kevin Durant leaving Golden State, was it the best decision? Maybe not. Right? Maybe you swallow your pride. Right? You try to mend fence with Draymond. You stay there and just win as many championships as you can. Who cares what Twitter trolls say in their mom's basement, right? But a part of it as a competitor is like, well, if you guys don't think I can go be the man on a championship team, let me show you that I can go be the guy on a championship winning team, which is why I say that in a way, fans and media talking heads kind of also, in a way, gaslighted KD out of Golden State so it can be like I know you're KD, but do I really know are you really KD without Steph? It's kind of one of those things where, like, I guess KD maybe felt like he wanted to remind the world that he is still that dude, despite the fact that he went to go join Steph. That's why I say, yes, he hasn't won anything without Steph and Clay and Draymond and Steve Kerr, and all that's true. But there's a lot more that goes into it, namely the fact that entire Brooklyn organization has been dealing with injury, namely, aside from other bad decisions that have been made. That's really the big one. I don't want to spend too much more time with this. We'll start with you, Payton, and go the other way around. Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole were live during the celebration after the finals, talking about they were going to get that bag. So who's more deserving of that big payday? Is it Andrew Wiggins, the former number one overall pick, or is it the splash nephew, cousin, third brother, Jordan Poole?
I would go with Andrew Wiggins, honestly. He has really proven himself. Like when he came into the league and he was kind of disappointing and all this and that, and he kind of got labeled as like this guy that like he didn't like to hustle because like Jimmy Butler yelled at him in practice and stuff. And it was like a whole big thing. I feel like that's all erased now. Andrew Wiggins is one of the best wing defenders in the NBA right now as we speak. That's part of the reason why he was an all-star starter despite averaging under 20 points per game. He deserves to get paid, and I think he was a key piece in this Warriors championship run, no question. I have his stats right here in the finals. 18 points per game, so you're like, okay, as a third scoring option, that's pretty good. 8.8 rebounds per game, 1.5 steals per game, 1.5 blocks per game on 45% shooting from the field. So he's efficient offensively, and I mean, he's a menace on the defensive side of the ball. You saw what his numbers were when he was guarding Jaylen Brown and when he was guarding Jayson Tatum. He made those guys feel extremely uncomfortable on the defensive side of the ball. And you need a guy like that on your team to win championships and to continue to be contenders, because we can talk about building super teams all we want. We could talk about, oh, this team has the star power and this team has this. Listen, the Heat don't win championships if Mike Miller doesn't come in and shoot three-pointers with his shoes off. You need guys to come in and play their role, play hard defense, get baskets when needed. And Andrew Wiggins fits the role of that team so perfectly that I feel like they need to bring him back. Now, Jordan Poole definitely deserves a new contract as well. But I would say just a little bit less than Andrew Wiggins, because Andrew Wiggins, in my opinion, was much more consistent game to game throughout the playoffs than Jordan Poole was. Now, Jordan Poole is the younger prospect. He is the guy. He is potentially your future in a way. But Andrew Wiggins right now is the guy who they need to worry about signing first.
Steezy.
Yeah, honestly, this one's it's not hard. It got to be Andrew Wiggins. And you can kind of look at what KD tweeted the other day. Wings run the league, right? And what is Andrew Wiggins? A wing, a 3-and-D wing for that matter. And there was an argument to be made that he was the second best player on this Warriors team that would just win the championship. And people were even making the argument that if Steph had a bad game, in the closeout, Wiggins could potentially win finals MVP. So that alone, kind of signifies the answer to me. Nothing against Jordan Poole, but he was at times inefficient. He was at times unplayable. There was never a situation or a time in place during the playoffs where you could say the same thing about an Andrew Wiggins. His importance to that team was just absolutely vital. He was a first-time All-Star, to kind of add to his case. And so everything that Payton said and everything that I said, and 3-and-D wings, they are kind of the most valuable commodity in the NBA. And with the Andrew Wiggins, he also showed the ability to step up to potentially be a number 2 or a number 1 option in spurts. And so I think the fact that this is a conversation is somewhat disrespectful to Andrew Wiggins and what he was able to provide for the Golden State Warriors this past season.
Yeah, I mean, Payton and Steez, they're on it. I mean, everything Payton said is exactly correct. The only thing I would state, because Steezy did even mention that Jordan Poole is deserving of a new contract, but Andrew Wiggins obviously a bit more. I think let us not discredit Jordan Poole. I agree. Andrew Wiggins for sure, but Jordan Poole, even though he was not efficient or consistent as the playoffs went on, you can see it. You can see flashes of him being essentially a good second or third option. If Steph, if Clay, if the same Andrew Wiggins they're having a bad night, you could see him having the confidence to step in and to play that role. I do have problems with Jordan Poole's game in that with what they're trying to get him to do when Steph is out versus what he actually does. He does a lot of ball watching. He passes the ball and kind of stays still, and he doesn't move like Steph and everything like that. He does that sometimes. I think that Andrew Wiggins for sure definitely deserves the contract because his offense was there. His defense could not be, because Payton mentioned the finals, but I'll even carry back to when they were playing the Mavericks. Luka Doncic was slowed down by Andrew Wiggins. We can't forget that. When they made the switch of Andrew Wiggins on Luka Doncic, it showed that Andrew was committed to the defensive side of the ball more so than the offense, because we know he could score. We know that he could get his points, but it was a running joke amongst some of my friends before this season that Andrew Wiggins couldn't get a rebound. Can you imagine being a small forward, 6'8", you don't get a rebound, one rebound for the game, and you're playing closer to basket? Andrew Wiggins kind of led Golden State in rebounds in the finals, right? So that alone, for me, shows that there is growth. He is being developed, and he stepped up to the plate. But Jordan Poole, you still have to give him some incentive to continue growing. And I think that while he does not deserve, he's not first in line to get that big bag, I still think that they should kind of reward him and keep him, I guess, motivated to some kind of thing to continue to grow into that role, to be a Steph Curry light or to be that second, third option if everybody else is kind of having an off night.
So Wiggins deserves the contract, but we have to look at how these things are structured. The smart thing to do is give Poole the extension. His cap hits $3 million next year. Wiggins is $33 million. Hey, you guys remember when Mike Conley was the highest paid? He signed the contract for the most NBA money. Neither do I. You know why? Because every year these things, like, that's why I get mad when Justin brings up the Tobias Harris contract in Philly. It doesn't matter. These contracts don't matter. It's how they stagger them. So you pay Jordan Poole now because then his money in a few years aren't going to matter. Then the year after, when Wiggins becomes a free agent, you can sign him to a different deal because you know what else happens? Andre Iguodala is going to come off the books. The Otto Porters are going to come off the books. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. And by 2025, the following year, their contracts will be done. Something tells me they'll probably take less money to keep the James Wisemans and the Andrew Wiggins and the Jordan Pooles and the Kumingas around. That's why the Warriors are such a great franchise. So the answer for now, the smart answer would be Jordan Poole, because he's the easy fix right now. He's probably going to get somewhere between 20, 25. I don't see him as a $30 million a year player, but I mean, if somebody's going to offer him more than that, that's on them. The Warriors are going to be like, all right, man, but he's probably somewhere around 25 million, and you can do that. They'll spend a little bit out of the luxury tax, but then the year after is the golden year, because yes, you do have to give Wiggins his money, but you're going to lose Andre Iguodala and some of the other names that I mentioned to make it a lot easier. And then the following year, that's where the salary cap gymnastics are really going to be important, because then you have Steph, Clay, and Draymond, to restructure. And if they want to keep that thing going, depending on how well they all play and how well healthy they stay, I can easily, Steph, Clay, and Draymond don't got nothing to prove. They don't need to make money. So let's keep this train rolling. So that's what I think.
Blaine.
Yeah, I would agree with Germ. The GM play is to definitely go with Jordan Poole now with the 20 to 25 million. Again, you got to be smart, and how the Warriors have been accustomed to keeping this core group together is how they've been able to financially wiggle around the system. They have been paying the luxury tax. They're one of the more accustomed, and Joe Lagos perfectly content with spending as much money as possible in that luxury tax to keep the group together. But on the Andrew Wiggins side, he is, without question, he was the second best player in this playoffs for this team. So I think the answer is going to be Andrew Wiggins. But if Bob Myers and Joe Lacob are able to figure it out, they will end up using Poole as the one that they extend now. And then again, with how Jerm said, because Wiggins is going to end up and Poole are going to be the two that are going to be 2-3 years down the road that are going to be the focal point of the team, right? With Kuminga, Wiseman. So you just have to figure out the correct system around it. But then again, of Wiggins, he was also the one that was the primary ball handler, primary defender on Ja, right? In that Memphis series before he got hurt. Steve Kerr was so reliant on Andrew Wiggins that every time he was mirroring their best players' substitution schedule. As soon as Tatum went out, Wiggins was going out. As soon as Doncic went out, Wiggins was going out. As soon as Doncic goes back in, Wiggins was going back in. Like in some of those games, Wiggins didn't play the entire second half like how Tatum or Doncic were doing in those must-win games, but he was probably getting a minute or two tops rest, and he was right back in there picking him up full court. So Andrew Wiggins, and he showcased a post game, and he was showing his offensive prowess and development that he really didn't showcase when he was in Minnesota, because in Minnesota for them with that team it was all about points, shots, get as much out of him and showcase potential and not fill a role like he has. And now he's become such a third or fourth option that he's playing with house money, which has allowed him to develop even more. And then I honestly had this horrible pun in my head, but I'm going to say it anyway. You can't have Splash Brothers without a pool party, right? So you got to so you're going to have to figure out how to keep both. But Jerm's right. You got to try and figure out Poole first and then Wiggins is second.
Listen, the smart thing to do, if you want to talk about salary cap gymnastics and all this good stuff, I don't care about salary cap gymnastics. Andrew Wiggins is the only player on this basketball team that is good offensively and good defensively. He's the only one that can play both sides of the ball. And that matters. Like, there aren't many guys in the league that are good offensively and defensively. That is Andrew, and it's not that Andrew Wiggins is one of the best in the business at it, but it is that he is rare air, right? Jordan Poole in his role, phenomenal, right? Like exceptional is Jordan Poole, but Jordan Poole also wasn't consistently good. Like Jordan Poole had his droughts through the course of this playoff run. There weren't many bad games from Andrew Wiggins from top to bottom in this playoff run. And when the Warriors really needed him to be good, he was good. Like, really good. He averaged, I think, 23 and 12 the last 3 games of the finals leading up to them winning the chip after being down 2-1. And we're talking about, oh, Boston's going to do this and Boston's going to do that. Yeah, look, shut up. It's just that's just not how it works. Like, Andrew Wiggins was really, really good in a series when Draymond Green struggled every step of the way until Game 6, in a series where Klay Thompson struggled every step of the way, if we're being honest. And we all thought we were primed for a Game 6 performance, and in Game 6, he dropped, 12 points or something like that? Like, so when everyone else around him was struggling, including one Jordan Poole, including even Steph Curry back in Game 5 at home up until the end there, Andrew Wiggins was the guy on this team that was just consistently being really, really good. That matters more. You can find another Jordan Poole. You can find another guy that can come off the bench and be a kind of spark plug and be a good shooter, right? We see guys like that in the league that come in and year out. They might not have the longest shelf lives in the league, but they exist. It's not often that you can find a guy that is consistently good offensively and consistently good defensively, and that matters. Jordan Poole doesn't play a lick of defense. He can't stop a cold. This was the second best defensive team in basketball this season, and one of the reasons why was because of just how good Andrew Wiggins is defensively. You can I really don't want to cite Justin Marvel right now because I'm getting into a war with him in the comments, and he's giving me a headache, but I'll do it anyway because I guess you give credit where credit is due. You can trust, in a way, Andrew Wiggins to go one up with Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown or whoever the number 1 or number 2 option is on the opposing team and expect him to do okay. I can't send Jordan Poole to go stop the third option, let alone the first. Like that kind of matters when you're looking at this system. That's not just like we have the Steph and we have Clay, and obviously that's all great, and this is a prolific offense, but this is also a really, really, really good defense. And as the old saying goes, defense wins championships. And like I said, and I know you gave me a crazy look, Neil, but you can find another guy to come off the bench and give you
I understand what you're saying.
15 to 20 points a game.
Moses
Like,
Moody. Moses Moody. They might already have that guy on their bench.
Exactly. And that was going to be my next point. You have guys down the pipeline in a Moses Moody and a Jonathan Kuminga who, as they continue to grow and develop in this league and as they continue to hone their craft and get better, they can be that guy. Oh, and by the way, both of those guys are wing players. And oh, and by the way, both of those guys are more reliable defensively than Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole is fantastic. Look, I don't go to pool parties because I can't swim, but I'm sure pool parties are fantastic, right? And Jordan Poole has promised us a plethora of pool parties as a part of his championship celebrations from now until the beginning of the new season, and I'm sure they'll be fantastic. He's a light skin, and girls these days like light skins, whatever. But the point is, like, Jordan Poole is not. There is nothing and it's not that Jordan Poole is a bad player, but there's nothing unique that Jordan Poole brings to the table that you couldn't go get, whether it be in free agency, whether it be via trade, or whether it be in the draft for cheaper. There aren't that many other guys that you could rely on consistently to be good offensively and defensively. And that's why you did Andrew Wiggins first.
I'm confused about, you guys are just so casually dismissing Jordan Poole. Did Jonathan Kuminga or Moses Moody play more minutes than Jordan Poole in the playoffs? Why do you think that is?
Because they're rookies.
No, I'll tell you, because Jordan Poole's better. You know why you can't like, they're waiting in the wings based on what? If they were good, Steve Kerr would play them. Jordan Poole's a proven commodity. So we don't know if Jonathan Kuminga or Moses Moody is good. We know that they can be good. They've shown potential, but we know who's good. We know Jordan Poole's good because he's had big games. He's given us the Splash Brother moments. They're calling the Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are coaching him on the court actively, right? Yep. Just like Iggy's coaching Wiggins and them. So, like, I think you guys are sleeping on Jordan Poole a little bit. Like, Moses Moody, Kuminga, if it works out for Golden State, that'd be great. That's the future, right? Wiseman, Wiggins, Poole, Kuminga, and Moody. That'll be the 2027 NBA champions. But until then, Jordan Poole is solidified as that guy.
Wait, but Jerm, sorry, Neil, just real quickly.
It's not that I think Jordan Poole is bad. Jordan Poole is a good player, and he has proven to. But I'm just saying, when you're looking at the way that this team is constructed and the way that the league, and we see spark plugs come off the bench all across the league. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Is the commodity that is Jordan Poole isn't rare. It is not that easy to find a reliable, an offensively and defensively reliable two-way wing.
Jordan Poole's 22 years old, so I don't want to hear this rookie nonsense. He got drafted like 2 years ago, so like, it's not like he's been like a G League All-Star for 20 years.
Oh, he hasn't. So
I'm
saying he's replaceable. Not that he's bad. He's replaceable.
Not on this team, he ain't. Not right now, he ain't. I'll tell you that.
Jerm, to your point, and I'm not taking anything away from Jordan Poole. I'm not saying he didn't grind, he didn't work hard, but isn't it universally known that Golden State's player development program is the best in the league? So who's to say that Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga being in that situation, not only have they flash potential, but they also happen to be playing for the best player development system in the league. A year ago, to this day, nobody knew who Jordan Poole was. And I'm not saying he didn't grind, he didn't put in the hard work, but one of the reasons for his emergence is because of that Golden State coaching staff and because of that Golden State player development program. So if they have other guys waiting in the wings, it holds more weight. It is more valuable in that locker room as opposed to others.
Listen, all I'm saying is that I'm not going to sit here and say that the guy who just averaged 18 points this season per game is about to get beat out by the two guys who only averaged 5 points per game this season. Like, they're not even close. Like, they're not playing in different practices. If they were good enough, they would usurp him. And I'm trying to look up his rookie stats because that's the barometer you guys are using. He averaged 8 points per game as a rookie. So, I mean, he was still, like, if you want to use that gauge, he was still slightly better. He was shooting at a better percentage. His plus minus was better. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just Jordan Poole as a 22-year-old kid has proven not just on the court, but the team clearly believes in him. They're talking about extending him already, like right now, and so I think people need to give Jordan Poole his respect. That's all.
Well, I mean, what we do know is he'll probably get paid before Andrew Wiggins because the Warriors do prefer their homegrown talent over their non-homegrown talent. So he will get paid, and even if it's not before Andrew Wiggins, he will get paid in whatever his contract is. He will deserve it. Go ahead, Neil.
Right, real quick, I just want to say that I got kind of lean with Germ here in this kind of like side argument, because while I do understand what Dwayne is saying that in terms of speciality, in terms of what a player specializes in, Andrew Wiggins has a more rare commodity than Jordan Poole. But to say that Jordan Poole is only like a spark plug is kind of a little dismissive to me, because this man came off the bench and gave you 30 points consistently. And I think it was in the first round. He gave you bat-to-bat 30. I think for the first 2 or 3 games this man had. I mean, they were putting up graphics with him next to Wilt and next to Jordan. When you can play so well in a 3-game stretch or a 4-game stretch in the playoffs, and they can put your graphic next to Wilt Chamberlain and Michael Jordan, you are doing something right, and you are far beyond just a spark plug. So I gotta agree with Germ here in that I understand what you're saying, Dwayne, in that Andrew Wiggins is more specialized, and it's rare to see a guy defend your best player and come and give you a solid second consistent scoring option. But let's not just relegate Jordan Poole to just a spark plug. This man can go off for 30 points, 4 threes in a row. This man hit 2 back-to-back half-court buzzer beaters in the finals. Like, Jordan Poole is special now. And yes, he can get better. He may remain the same. He may drop off. But right now, I wouldn't just call him a spark plug. This man, he got something kind of unique about him.
But Neil, wasn't when he was doing that, I believe Stephen Curry was actually coming off the bench and he was injured. So he had expanded opportunity. Now, that's a good thing that he was doing that. But to Dwayne's point, isn't there more of an impact on winning from 3-and-D guys than spark plugs? Because I've seen a whole bunch of 3-and-D guys have more of an impact on winning championships as opposed to spark plugs, microwaves. Even if Jordan Poole is a little bit more than a spark plug or a microwave, I mean, that's all he really is, right? Defensively, what's he going to bring to the table, at least right now for the time being? I've just seen a lot more 3-and-D wings consistently as far as championship team goes. And 6 men, scoring microwaves, guys like that, a lot of them don't have championships. And that's nothing against them. I'm not holding that against them, but that's just the Dwayne's point.
For me, and this is the last thing I'll say, if Jordan Poole was an okay defender, I'd be more inclined to lean Jordan Poole than Andrew Wiggins. But it's, again, because it's Andrew Wiggins can give you that 20 to 22, maybe 25, and also get boards and get steals and get blocks. And he's doing all of that while excelling in that role and being efficient. Like, it's not an inefficient 20 points a game. It's a rather efficient 20 points a game for a third option. That's really what it comes down to. Let's talk now about the other side of things, because I'm sick of making Blaine happy, saying all these good things about the Golden State Warriors. Let's talk about the Boston Celtics, who in their first trip to the finals since 2010 fell a little bit short. And a lot of people want Jayson Tatum's head on a stick. Blaine, Spencer, we'll start with you. Does Tatum get a pass for his finals performance because he's only 24 years old?
I would prefer to somehow spin this question towards like a Warriors hype and continue my good fortune. But I would say no, he doesn't get a pass. You are the best player on your respective team, and he led the postseason in turnovers. His decision making was the one thing that we thought he needed to correct if they wanted to win this series against the Warriors. And he had that game 1 in that fourth quarter where he was making the correct play every time. His head was on a swivel, and then it got worse and worse as the series went along. I think Wiggins ended up getting into his head a little bit with and there's that argument that everyone's been saying they trained together with the same trainer. Did that play a little bit of a role? I don't think so personally, but you never know. Wiggins has a little bit of a understanding of his tendencies with what his moves are, with being able to train with him a little bit in the offseason. But no, Jayson Tatum does not get a pass. Jaylen Brown doesn't get a pass. you two are the best two players on your team, and you guys couldn't figure it out all postseason for both of you to have a good game together. So that is an issue that they're going to have to try and figure out this offseason. They are going to, I'm assuming they will run it back. I don't see that they're going to break them two up because they just got to the NBA Finals. But you have to start to wonder, why couldn't they figure it out? Why both of them could have a solid game at the same time instead of it was one having a good game, one being awful. So no, he doesn't get a pass.
Greatest performance, A through F.
Wow. C minus.
Dude.
I think that's being lenient, honestly. I'm a very lenient grader, but C minus.
Go ahead, Jerm.
The D, dog. What do you listen? This guy. Listen, he fetishized Kobe Bryant. That's all we heard of, all coming up through his playoffs. You just said it. Jayson Tatum's 24 years old. How old was Kobe Bryant? For those who are old enough, I know Dwayne, you were probably you were still in the crib, but Kobe Bean Bryant was 21 years old when he won his first championship with the LA Lakers.
When did Kobe win his first championship, Jerm? I don't know at the top of my head.
When you were in preschool. And
What year was it? What year? I'll give you the exact moment I was on the earth if you can tell me what year.
I don't remember the year exactly. It was 90.
Here, I'll look at.
Yeah, look it up while I filibuster.
2000, right?
90 something. Oh, I wasn't thought of in 90 something, pal.
99, 2000.
I wasn't thought of.
It doesn't matter. Either way, he revved up the Kobe machine all through the playoffs. He wore the Kobe elbow band as a Boston Celtic. He's wearing Lakers colors. You should have known they weren't going to do nothing in the playoffs at that moment. Kobe was the king of the fourth quarter. Steezy knows this. Neil, Payton, I'm sure you all, those who are old enough to actually watch Kobe. Blaine, I don't know. You look young, but you might be old. I don't know. But for those
I watched Kobe.
He was the king of the fourth quarter. Jayson Tatum is the court jester. In the fourth quarter, in the first two rounds, Jayson Tatum averaged 8 points per game on 58% shooting in the first two rounds. Then in these finals against the Heat, 4 points per game in the fourth quarter on 38% shooting. And then in the finals, a measly 3 points per game, which I'm pretty sure all six of us could have went out there and scored more than 6 points in the fourth quarter of an NBA game on 23% shooting. Put the elbow band away. Don't ever bring it out again. Andrew Wiggins locked you up. 10 million people per game were watching you, and you somehow hid on a court that only has 10 people on it at a time, and nobody knew you were there. He deserves a D, and the only reason I'm not giving him an F is because he was instrumental in getting them to the finals. So it's I'll give you a little bit of credit there. But Jayson Tatum, for the guy who was supposed to be the next Kobe Bryant, you're the one that's always talking about it. You got your little son running on the court for some reason. Put your son in daycare and focus on and winning titles. All right, enough of this cute stuff you're doing. You got these commercials coming out. Win games, and then you can do that stuff.
Deuce is a national hero. That's all I'll say about Deuce. No, I won't take any Deuce slander on here. Outside of that, though, so it looks like the grade's dropping. Blaine was trying to be nice, gave him a C minus. Germ just said, forget that. I'll give him a D.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with D now too.
Oh,
honestly, I was like, damn, I'm about to give him an F.
Ew.
Yeah.
Are you going higher or lower than a D for Jayson Tatum's final performance, and does he get a pass?
Well, first things first, in Barbados, we don't have that ranking system when it comes to schools. We go with the percentage straight up. But I do know what a D is. I was gonna go D plus, but after hearing Germ, I was like, God. I'll be honest here, fellas. First things first, at Germ's point, in terms of him channeling Kobe Bryant, a lot of people channel Kobe Bryant. A lot of people speak on Kobe Bryant and invoke Kobe Bryant's name and his work ethic, etc. But it is very, very hard to be Kobe Bryant. It is very, very hard to be any of these greats that you try to challenge. Channel. I don't personally have a problem for two reasons of him wearing the Kobe Bryant armband. One, I'm a Laker fan, so anything to rub it any Boston Celtics fans, I am grateful for that. But more importantly, you need any inspiration you can to perform at your highest level. No, the reason why I'm going to give him a pass, this one is going to be a little controversial, but the reason why I'm going to give him a pass is because his issues, he led the league in turnovers for the postseason. The reason why he has these turnovers is because his issues are fundamental. Whenever he puts the ball in his left hand and he drives into traffic, he will not finish. That is analytics. I am an old guy. I embrace it. Thanks to Justin Marvel, I've embraced the analytics. It's not all here for Justin Marvel, but Jayson Tatum's issues are fundamental, and they have been this way ever since he's been in the league. He gets a pass from me because he needs to change this thing. He really wants to channel Kobe Bryant. He really wants to invoke his name and his spirit. Go in the offseason and work on these deficiencies. Everybody that watches basketball and knows, especially as you go further on in the playoffs, you know it. Everybody has a scouting report, right? And Kobe Bryant prided himself in making sure he had no flaws in his game. Of course, he had flaws in the game, but he made it so that if you forced me to be in an uncomfortable situation and not go where I want to score, then so be it. I'm going to work on these deficiencies. And so when I'm put into these situations, I am going to find a way to be impactful on the game. The unfortunate point about it is that Jayson Tatum has not got over that hump yet. And I think that he's a young man. He hasn't really worked on these deficiencies. You saw it all through the playoffs. You've seen it all in the seasons that he's played. He needs to go in the offseason and work on it. If next season now he gets back, he's having these same issues, you put him in these situations where you double team him after forcing him left, or you force him into a congested situation, going to the ring, and he still can't finish. He's still having problems turning over the ball, etc. Then by all means, get him out of there, right? Like, he's no good. But right now, I think that for 24 years old, for somebody that's trying to find his way and trying to be impactful, because he even in some points in the playoffs tried to force that mystique, that being a closer or being impactful. He tried to force it and he turned over the ball. He made some terrible mistakes and he needs to work on that. He gets a pass from me because he needs this. He needs this motivation. He needs leading the turnovers. Shoot, being compared to Kobe Bryant and turning over the ball so much, he needs this motivation. Let's see what the young man does in the offseason. And if he can somehow turn it around and come back next season a better player in these situations, then to me, he gets the pass. Now, of course, if he goes now and he continues playing the same way, he's learned nothing, then by all means, give the team to Jaylen Brown, which is all fine with me as a Laker fan.
Steezy.
You know, he gets a pass because Kobe Bryant got a pass when he had 3 air balls, right, against the Jazz. What was it, his rookie or his second year in the league? LeBron got a pass when he had that ultimate meltdown in the 2011 finals.
Whoa, who gave LeBron James a pass in 2011?
Well, he solidified it, right?
A lot of people did.
Who gave LeBron James a pass in 2011? LeBron James didn't deserve a pass in 2011. That's just my personal opinion. Go with that.
No. So what I'm trying to get at is all these greats, for the most part, I get it, not everyone agrees, but all the greats, all the all-time greats. MJ gets a pass for not winning the title in his first 7 seasons of his career because he was able to validate it later on. So as long as Jayson Tatum is able to learn from his mistakes, because going off of what Neil was saying, you got to know how to lose before you win. You got to know how to fail before you succeed. This is really the first instance in his career where Jayson Tatum has not only failed, but failed miserably. He's going to learn from this. He's going to bounce back from this, and we'll see it later on in his career if he's able, to win a championship or 2 or 3 and be the best player. Not only that, another reason why he gets a pass is because he was thrown into a role in which he's just not, if that makes sense. And so he's not a point guard. He's not a point forward. And so the Celtics tried to use him, or they tried to force him into a player that he's not. And I thought that he did the best that he could, throughout the first 2 to 3 rounds of the playoffs. And then come the finals, he just ran out of gas. And I understand, to Jerem's point from earlier, Kobe was 21 years old, but he also came into the league when he was 17, going on 18. Jayson Tatum came into the league when he was, 21, 22? And so they've been in the league for, I guess he's been in the league for 5 years now. But point being, he was forced into a role in which he's not. And the second point is that other stars in NBA history, other greats, top 10 guys have gotten passes, but they were able to kind of get past that because of the accomplishments that they've had later on in their careers. The age thing is relevant. He's 24. There's so much left to be done, so much left to be accomplished. And for that, he deserves a pass in my book.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny about the age of social media and stuff like that, and now you have 24/7 news on sports and everything. Everything in the world seems so magnified. Everything is the biggest moment ever. And I think we're doing that with Jayson Tatum here. Yes, he played terrible. I would give him a D, maybe even a D- if we're just basing it off of You're the best player on your team. You were not the best player on your team in the finals, though. You didn't show up to play based off your expectations. You get a D- in my opinion. But I guess it's not the end of the world is what I'm trying to say. Yes, Jayson Tatum had a bad performance this finals, but like Steezy mentioned, he played great in the first, 2-3 rounds to get them there. He played tremendous against Brooklyn. He played great defense and was part of the reason why they swept that Brooklyn team that many people were picking an upset in. Then you go against Milwaukee. You play great, especially in that game 6, down 3-2. What did he have? 40-something? He's the reason why they got past that season or past that series in 7 games. Then you go to Miami. He plays great in Miami. Then finals, it happens. But guess what? All of the greats, like Neil mentioned, like Steezy mentioned, a lot of the greats have passes throughout their career because they make up for it later on. And, Jayson Tatum loving Kobe Bryant so much, trying to resemble him and kind of be like, kind of look up to him in a way. Kobe Bryant would come back and, like Neil said, in the offseason, he'd work his freaking butt off 24/7 to get better, to make sure those same mistakes and those same struggles don't happen twice. Luckily for Jayson Tatum, he is 24. He has opportunities to keep improving. I mean, Andrew Wiggins was a bust at 24, and now he's an NBA champion at 27. So things can turn around quick. I would say it was great that Jayson Tatum even got them there because this was a team in the Celtics that had 0 games of NBA Finals experience prior to Game 1. A rookie head coach, granted, was great this year. Now, but the Celtics were never really supposed to be there to begin with. They got there mainly because of the brilliance of Jayson Tatum throughout the regular season and throughout the postseason as well. Yes, the finals suck, but Jayson Tatum has the opportunity now you fall. What are you going to do? Are you going to get back up and punch harder, or are you going to stay down? I think he's going to work harder this offseason. I think he's going to come back and be great next season. And I think ultimately in the next 5-10 years, we might be talking about Jayson Tatum top 5 in the NBA.
I agree with every positive word Payton had to say. I'm not going to sit here and bash Jayson Tatum. I think what I will say, though, is Jayson Tatum got progressively worse as the playoffs went on. After manhandling the Nets in the first round of the playoffs, averaging 28, roughly if you round up from 27.6, he averaged 25 against the Bucks.
You could have gotten 15 against the Brooklyn Nets defense. That's how bad they were, though.
Oh, sure, but he averaged 30 points against the Nets. He averaged 28 against the Bucks, 25 against the Heat. He averaged 22 against the Warriors. So, yeah, it's Jayson Tatum is the reason why the Celtics are here. But it's and that's wonderful and that's great. And he's young. I get all of that. It's fantastic. I'm not giving Jayson Tatum a pass though for his performance, primarily because he was primarily the reason why they lost the 4 games that they lost. Like, if you look at the games that they lost, there's an argument that can be made that if Jayson Tatum plays better basketball in those 4 games, they win the finals. Like, and I get it, right? You can make that argument with anybody. Yeah, Steph Curry plays better in the 2 games that they lost. They would have swept them. Like, I get all of that. But Jayson Tatum played terrible basketball. And it wasn't just the turnovers. It was all of it. Like, if it was, for me, if it was one thing that, okay, yeah, the turnovers. Yeah, well, as much as, again, I don't like giving Justin Marvel credit because he's just such a pain in all of our sides. But I guess I got to give credit where credit's due. He's not a natural playmaker. And I think it's, I don't know if it was Steezy or Payton. You all said the same thing. There's 6 of you here. I don't know. Someone on this illustrious panel said that Jayson Tatum was forced into a role that he doesn't naturally play. Steezy, thank you. He was 100% forced to a role that doesn't naturally play. And that you could say that as a reason why that the turnovers were so high. Sure, I'll give you that. But he was also inefficient as a scorer. He also didn't make shots when it mattered. He also didn't leave an impact defensively. Like, there was just so much that Jayson Tatum didn't do that I can't just look at that and say, oh, well, He's 24. I'm not going to bring the hammer down on him because he's 24, but I'm not just going to turn a blind eye to it because he's 24. I think we're so very quick in today's world because of social media to throw the age argument out there as the reason why someone deserves a pass. He deserved a D. He deserved every inch of that D that he got in the finals. But it's not just the finals. I realized that. Yeah, that was wicked. That was nasty. I realized that as I said it.
I mean,
that wasn't the best way to say it. That wasn't the best way to say it. Every bit of the D grade that he earned, he deserves every bit of it. I probably should have said that better. I apologize to all you. I apologize.
There's no better way to say that.
There's no better way to say it. But you guys get what I meant. The point is, he played awful, and I'm not going to give him a pass for it because he's the best player on the team. We look at Jayson Tatum as being the second best or the best player under 25 in basketball, and he didn't play like that in the finals. Let's move on from this because I don't even want to.
I just want to crap on Jayson Tatum one more time.
Sure, by all means. You wouldn't be Mr. Jerm Edwards without it.
We have a saying on Stuff About Sports. Dwayne Marcus, you know this.
Yeah,
we're in the results business. We're not in the excuse making business. All right, you were paid to perform and you didn't perform. Jayson Tatum is Chris Middleton with better marketing. First player in NBA history with 100 turnovers in a single season. He has the worst plus minus by any player in an NBA Finals game ever. Okay, take the elbow band off. You are not Kobe Bryant. You're not the Black Mamba. You are barely Brian Scalabrine, the White Mamba. You're not. So enough. Okay, let's move on. Sorry.
Yo, you said slightly crap on him? My goodness gracious.
And I was holding back.
We had this conversation on the hashtag This Justin Sports Show last year after the finals. We're going to have this conversation here. I was correct with my predictions that neither team in the finals last year would make it back, and Justin Marvel laughed at me. Justin, if you're still watching this, I'll never forgive you for that. Payton, which of these teams, if either one, okay, we'll start here. Which of these teams is more likely to make it back to the finals next season? And will one of these teams make it back to the finals next season?
The Warriors are more likely. I feel like that's kind of the easy one, is because one, let's be honest, if Chris Middleton played in that series against the Celtics didn't make the finals to begin with. I actually could see Milwaukee going back to the finals in next season if, everyone's healthy. We've seen the Warriors in 6 championships in 8 years. So we know for a fact that they can get there. We know that they have the pedigree to get there multiple times. So I guess who is more likely to repeat would be the Warriors. Now, will we see them is a different question. It's hard to go back to back. It's really difficult. But in the West, I mean, you're looking at Memphis might kind of like take another step forward. We don't know what the Mavericks are going to do now that they have Christian Wood, and if Luka could take a next step and get them over the hump in the West, or the Suns. If the Suns go out and get someone, you never know. They were the 1 seed last. Everyone's shaking their head. The Phoenix Suns won almost like I believe they won 60 games last year. Like the Phoenix Suns were a great basketball team, and sure. I get it. Like okay, Paul, don't know.
The Phoenix Suns are James Harden as a franchise. Great in the regular season, awful in the playoffs.
All right, okay, fair enough. But it's hard to get past them, is what I'm saying. Though, if they get hot at the right time they add the certain piece in the offseason, things can happen. Dominoes fall in different ways. Sometimes it's weird, especially in the NBA. So. And we don't know. What if Kyrie Irving goes and joins LA and Anthony Davis, by the grace of God, stays healthy for an entire season, and LeBron James is still averaging 30 and they win a championship? You never know. I mean, so I wouldn't bet on either of them to make it back. But I guess if I were to bet on one, I would bet on the Warriors.
Steezy, I know you're not married to your takes, so I feel like we should skip you altogether because you're going to change your answer in 2 months, but you're here. So I might as well give you the floor.
God damn, y'all guys on fire.
I think, look, for me, and look, we've all brought this up before, but the Warriors have won they've won 4 rings in the last 8 years, right? They've been in 6 of the last NBA Finals. Now, in those 2 appearances or in those 2 years in which they didn't make the finals, Steph Curry only played 5 games one of those years. Clay missed both those years entirely. And then Draymond missed, I think, a majority of one of those years as well. And so I think the Warriors would actually be the safer bet. I know they probably have the road of tougher resistance because, like Payton talked about, out west, I think the Lakers are going to be a threat. Shout out Neil. Clippers, people forget PG and Kawhi still there. Memphis is on the come up. Dallas, if they're able to bring back Jalen Brunson, they just traded for Christian Wood. Hopefully Luka gets better defensively, or at least tries harder defensively. Portland, I'm kind of liking what Portland's doing. Now, if they're able to flip, who they drafted at 7th overall and Shaedon Sharpe for an established star, if they're able to get an OG, I like what they're doing. They got Anthony Simons, Damian Lillard, Jeremy Grant. If they're able to land an OG on an Anobi, that's 2 big wings, and then you have 2 bona fide scorers. I think Portland could potentially be a threat. In the regular season, Phoenix.
All that for first round exits, Steezy.
and Payne, I wasn't laughing at your.
Oh no.
Well,
That's that Seattle connection right there.
That's why I'm on the opposite side of Washington right now.
The take was too hot. The take was way too hot. Computer.
When Steezy falls out or cool.
Oh, there he is.
There he is. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Oh, did I freeze for a little bit?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I just kept going. My bad.
Yeah. System overload, pal. System overload.
What was the last thing you guys heard? So I'm not.
You were laughing at my son's comment.
Okay, so no, the only reason why I was laughing was because I said the regular season Warriors. Come playoff time, I never believed in them. I don't trust them. And that's kind of just what they've shown us in the last couple of years. And so at the end of the day, I think with Boston, they have, a bunch of teams that they have to deal with out east. I think my Miami Heat, we're going to land either KD or Kyrie. So, the rest of the East could probably say goodbye. But Philadelphia's still going to be a threat. Shout out Germ. Brooklyn, I think they're going to be able to surround pieces. If KD ends up staying, they're definitely going to be able to bring in a couple of pieces. But I think at the end of the day, every time the Golden State Warriors have been healthy in the last 8 years, they've been in the NBA Finals. And so if you're a betting man, bet on the Golden State Warriors to make it back.
Steezy, you are a betting man. You going to place that bet?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Because on top of that, Jonathan Kuminga is probably going to get playing time. Moses Moody is going to get playing time. Klay Thompson will be another year removed from injury. And who's not going to want to join the Warriors this offseason? PJ Tucker, I think, might go to the Warriors. There's going to be a whole bunch of free agents wanting a ring chase. And so I think on top of internal improvement, you're going to have a whole bunch of free agents joining the Warriors. And so, Dwayne, I'm going to place that bet.
One more thing before Neil goes. How do you feel about PJ Tucker not wanting to be in Miami anymore? Does that hurt your heart a little bit?
Not too much. Especially if the consolation prize is going to be a Kyrie or a KD or a Bradley Beal or a Spider Mitchell or potentially a Zach LaVine. There's a lot of stars out there that's wanting to go to Miami. So PJ Tucker, goodbye.
We all know that you're going to have to give up Tyler Hero to get him. And we all know that Pat Riley refuses to give up Tyler Hero. So
for some god awful reason, he just won't.
Yeah,
it's because there hasn't been this many stars available now. Because it's well known that Miami needs a bona fide second legitimate scoring option. This team wants to win. Jimmy Butler wants to win. Pat Riley wants to win. Eric Spoelstra wants to win. If Tyler Hero is the price, then by all means.
Interesting.
Yeah, for me, the question is who's going to make it back? Who's more likely to make it back? Golden State Warriors. Steezy and Payton, they're killing it. To just add my little take on it, when you have Steph Curry playing how he's playing, Klay Thompson is a shadow of himself. We don't know if he's going to come back, but chances are he can only get better, right? Even him hobbled, he was still a threat. You have Andrew Wiggins playing well. You have the third Splash brother. You have, Kuminga, all of the other guys, James Williams. The Warriors is a great franchise. They're more likely to make it back to the finals next year. What was the second part of the question? Second part of the question is what?
Will any of them make it back?
Will they make it back? No, that's a different question.
You got your Lakers going back to the finals, right?
Well, that's my default answer every year. But realistically, for all of the reasons that Payton and Steezy said, I think they can make it back, but it will be a tougher road if all of the pieces out west are healthy. Barring the Phoenix Suns, because to me, if this Phoenix Suns team, any Chris Paul led team, is going to be a regular season bully, but then come playoff, will always find a way to find themselves out of contention. Sorry, Justin. Love you, my brother. But I think that there's so many moving pieces out west. For again the reasons that Payton and Steezy said, you don't know what's going to happen with Portland, and we coming from the bottom coming up now, right? We may get nobody mentioned Denver yet. We may get about Jamal Murray. You don't know how that team is going to look like next year. Luka Doncic and the Mavericks could only get better. You have Ja Morant and their run. Ja Morant was unhealthy, got injured in the last few games that they had. You don't know what they're going to look like. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a challenging road back because injuries are not the injuries are impartial, so they can hit the Warriors as well. Knock on wood. They don't wish injuries on anyone. But for that token, I think that they have the chance to make it back because of their organization and their ability to somehow, once having even half decent players, half healthy players, they will find themselves there and thereabouts when it comes to getting to the finals. If I were a betting man, which I am hella sure not, I would say Golden State makes it back. Only because, and this is obviously not the fan part of me, this is unbiased opinion. I think they make it back simply because I think that the younger players outside of Clay, Steph, and Draymond, I think this is only going to bolster their confidence. They're going to work harder. They're going to want to reach the mountaintop again. You interject James Wiseman, more minutes for Kuminga, a bigger role for what's his name, Moody. To me, sky's the limit. I personally, on a fan basis, would love to see Lakers get back. Don't ask me. I'm glad I didn't see this question on the docket if I would rather Kyrie Irving over Russell Westbrook, because I think you just trade in crazy people, in my opinion. Russell Westbrook. If you ask me, obviously and I know this has nothing to do with the question, but just real quick, I obviously no doubt would take Kyrie over Westbrook. This current iteration of Westbrook or any iteration of Westbrook, I taking Kyrie Irving. But then I go wonder if Kyrie Irving can play basketball or if he can find some way to, because his sister is going to be 32. He may go to that 32-year-old birthday party. He may decide that, as Jerem said, Mercury is in retrograde or Venus is somehow regressing. He may just, don't ask me about the Lakers. I'm glad the Lakers are not on the docket tonight. That's my take.
Well, Neil, when I go through all 30 teams in their off seasons, you're going to be on that show, bro.
Another year where LeBron, Anthony Davis inevitably gets hurt, and I'm assuming we're going to skip their second option question. And I'll tell you that LeBron is the greatest second option in the league because he can't make the playoffs without Anthony Davis. So therefore, LeBron is the greatest second option since we're assuming.
That question.
Damn.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I'll tell you why the Warriors are going to make it back before the Boston Celtics. And it's the opposite of what everybody else said. It's because the Boston Celtics have a harder path back to the finals. The 10th seed in the West, the San Antonio Spurs won a whopping, outstanding 34 games, while the lowly Charlotte Hornets, LaMelo Ball, won 43 games with a head coach's name that I had no idea he was the head coach. And I can't even pronounce it. And they've already fired him and brought back Steve Clifford today. The path is harder. Yes, the Denver Nuggets are getting Jamal Murray back, but they still had 48 games. So they're still going to be in that 48 to 55 win team range. Jamal Murray's good, but it's not like they're getting, somebody, a Klay Thompson back, right? Like they're not getting somebody who moves the needle that much where they become an instant NBA title contender. Yeah. So he's good. I love Jamal Murray. He was the best player for the Nuggets in the bubble. He's good, but let people act like Jordan's coming back wearing the 4-5 when Jamal Murray steps on the court. And that's assuming that he comes back perfectly healthy and doesn't re-aggravate that injury. We've been spoiled with knee injuries lately. Typically, they don't work out nearly as well as they should. Neil mentioned the big piece in the center, James Wiseman. If Kevon Looney can go out there and anchor a championship winning team on defense, you damn sure better believe James Wiseman can too. And he has done nothing but improve his offensive game, which is one of the things he needed to do. He's going to be a 3-point shooter now. He's going to stretch the floor. He's going to help Draymond Green out. And then we've mentioned Moody and Kuminga are going to increase significant minutes. The more this core sticks together, the better it's going to be. The Lakers are not going to be drastically different. I don't think so. I don't know how you trade Russell Westbrook. So, and they didn't even make the play-in tournament. And so they might make the playoffs if Anthony Davis, by the grace of God, stays relatively healthy. But even with Anthony Davis and LeBron playing healthy, nobody was scared of the Lakers. They were okay. They were pretty good. But yeah, it's bad out there for everybody else in the Western Conference. The Memphis Grizzlies don't scare me. I don't care about Ja Morant. He's talking all this trash on Instagram to Draymond Green. That's what losers do. Draymond Green is a winner. And so the Boston Celtics, like Payton was saying, Steve, a bunch of other guys over here were saying, there's a bunch of teams in the East that are going to be there, and they're all even. And the Warriors only have to go through maybe 3-4 teams tops in the West to make it back to the finals.
I'm not asking Blaine because I know Blaine's answer is going to be the Warriors, but I'm going to sit here and waste my time with that. I'm not giving him any more reasons.
Back to back.
Oh, jeez. The Warriors are going back to the NBA Finals next year. I'm not saying they're more likely to. I'm not saying they might. The Golden State Warriors are going back to the finals next year. It is the
book it, he says. Book it.
Listen, I took this approach last year after the finals. I got laughed at. One day people are gonna listen to me. I don't know when. Maybe today's that day. Like, thank you. My ring light fell. It's fine. I'll just do it in the dark. The Suns don't scare me. I think we've seen the last of the Suns at this point. The Suns will be in a playoff team, sure. The Suns are not going to make a deep run. The Grizzlies are still a little bit too young, and I don't think they have enough quite yet. And I think we saw that in this postseason, although as you guys mentioned, they did play the back half of that series against Golden State without Ja Morant. The only two teams, if I'm just being really honest, the only two teams that give me the cause to pause in the Western Conference are a healthy Los Angeles Clippers team and the Dallas Mavericks. That's really it. I look, Justin's not here, but Nikola Jokic was Justin's MVP, and that's great. But like Jerm said, Jamal Murray and MPJ coming back is the difference between of 7 games. So we're talking from the 6th seed to the 5th seed. Like, if we're being honest, the Spurs and the Blazers and the Pelicans and all those teams, all those young teams, they'll cancel each other out, right? I would like to think that the Lakers would make it back to the playoffs, right? I imagine they would. I would assume if everybody's healthy, they can, even with Russell Westbrook. But we're talking to Russell Westbrook. I don't know if they can do that. Not to send Neil into a spin of depression. I don't want to do that. But if I'm just being honest, the only two teams really that I think give me cause for pause next year are the Los Angeles Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks. And while I think what is a nice one, there is still the looming thing of whether or not the Mavericks bring back Jalen Brunson, because the Knicks firmly believe that they're going to be signing Jalen Brunson in the very near, very much so. In the near future. In the near future. So, and whether he stays or whether he goes, while I think that Dallas improves as far as moving up the totem pole from what were they, the 5th seed this season to like the 3rd seed this season, next season, I don't know if they'll have enough to make it back to the finals. The Warriors don't lose playoff series. They've only lost 2 playoff series in the Steph Clay Dre era. Both of them were in the finals, the fateful 3-1 comeback, and the finals they would have won if everybody didn't get hurt left and right. It is seen that there are 3 guarantees in life: death, taxes, Steezy wearing a suit, and the Warriors going to the finals. Although Steezy's not wearing a suit today, I almost canceled the show because of that. Anyway, I'm wrapping this show up in the dark because I'm not going to pick up that light. So thank you all.
Hold on, real quick. This Clippers love that I hearing everybody having. Yo, why everybody worried about the Clippers? What
I don't know.
What was making what does the
We gotta worry about
Clippers
one LA team, and it's not the Lakers. I'm sorry.
Oh hell no. Listen to me, right? LeBron James and Anthony Davis far outweigh, because let's be honest, Paul George is not going to show up in the playoffs, right? Healthy or not healthy. Kawhi Leonard, I don't know. For me, I think that when you look at, I know we got to choose an LA team and everything, and I know I'm biased, right? I know I really can rag on the Clippers, but everybody is touting these Clippers team. Once healthy, they're gonna. Healthy.
I don't think the Clippers are going anywhere. I just think if we're looking at the landscape of the Western Conference at this point, the team with the brightest outlooks right now, are the Los Angeles Clippers.
You know that's actually hilarious. You said brightest outlook, and then you're late with that is
it's
perfect.
the Los Angeles and the Dallas Mavericks. That's it. The Suns are done. The Portland Trailblazers will always be nothing more than Damian Lillard logo highlights. Like, that's it. I love Jeremy Grant. I think Jeremy Grant's a solid player, but he's not tipping the needle. They'll go from being a non-playoff team to a play-in team. Great for them. The landscape in the West isn't going to change that much outside of, I mean, the last time we saw the Clippers were
finals against the Suns.
They were one of the better teams. They were one of the better teams in basketball. Like that is, I expect that to have some type of carryover. And I know you're a Lakers fan, and that's why you're kind of like giving me the brush off, and that's fine. Like I'm going to chalk it up to Laker bias, and you have every right to do that. I just think that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are one of the better duos in basketball. I think Kawhi Leonard's absence did more good for the Clippers than harm as far as their role players being able to kind of get in the flow and all that good stuff. I think they'll be better as a collective when Kawhi gets back. And again, like Steezy said, we gotta hedge our bet on one of these LA teams. And I mean, I don't.
Disrespectful is all I will say. Disrespectful.
Is it? Neil, they're not getting rid of Russell Westbrook, bro. And AD can't be healthy to save his life. So this is just the reality of the situation at this point. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I usually leave that to Justin so that he can kind of, break your heart and I can put it back together on the show. That's usually what I'm sorry. This is such as life, man.
I gotta take this L. This we can get to it in another show. This is not the last time you'll see my Lakers. Matter of fact, I am hoping next year. I hope y'all keep this same energy. That's all I can say.
I'm a LeBron fan. I want LeBron to go back and win more chips. Of course I do, but I gotta be realistic, man. I gotta be realistic. It's been a great show. We've been talking each other's heads off for about an hour and a half. Payton, we'll start with you and go around the horn. Please let everybody know where they can find you and all your content.
All right, so I'm mainly on TikTok at PD Sports. That's kind of where I post the majority of my content on there. You can also find me on Instagram at PD Sports, on Twitter at Payton Doyle Show. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm trying to get my live show started back up here soon. I recently just moved to Orlando. So I'm just getting everything set up and whatnot. And yeah, so I normally would do the live show every Wednesday. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to do it, but you can find me on YouTube. Just look up Payton Doyle. It'll be the first one there. And yeah.
Hey, I just want to say, I thought this past Monday on This Just In was a hilarious show, but today's show has just been absolutely just comedy gold. I mean, it's been a ride. It's been a blast. Shout out Payton, shout out Neil, shout out Germ, shout out Dwayne, shout out Blaine. Be sure to follow all these guys. Show them some love. Drop them some love at PD Sports. I think King Hoyt on Instagram. Germ, stuff about sports. Blaine, the final whistle. It's been a while since I've worked with you, bro. And then obviously, of course, Dwayne at the G.O.A.T podcast with Marcus. Because we didn't answer the question, I just wanted to put my 2 cents. Jaylen Brown is not the best second option in the NBA. That honor would belong to either Anthony Davis, Chris Middleton, or Kyrie Irving, depending on where he goes. And so that's kind of where I stand on that. There's also Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, Jamal Murray, PG-13, Zach LaVine, Brandon Ingram. There's a whole list of guys. And so, no, he's not, but he's definitely up there. And last but not least, you can find me at Steezy A Smith, SteezyASmith. One more word before I go. Neil, my dad, he's a Lakers fan. I got family that are Lakers fans, and so I'm putting on a front. I'm definitely not, pooping on the Lakers. I want to see the Lakers win. I'm rooting for the Lakers. Bron's still one of my favorite players, and so that was just me putting on a front. I'm definitely not going to have that same energy from earlier because I root for the Lakers behind the scenes. So that's that. But, hey, all love, and this was fun being on the show, y'all. This is real fun, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dwayne, for having me on the show. I enjoy talking with these guys. It's a mismatch of personalities, and I love it. It's always fun talking sports with you guys. Obviously, I got rep This Just In. You can check us on YouTube every Monday at 8 p.m. I don't know the time zone so well because I am not an American. So forgive me, 8 p.m. Barbados time. You could Google that, I guess, if that's anything worthwhile. But this just in on YouTube, this just won N on Instagram, and this just won on Twitter. You could check us out every Monday at 8. And at King Hoyt personally on Instagram. And the NBA is better with the Lakers being successful. I'll just leave it at that.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm Germ, one half of Stuff About Sports with my cohort, Bert. We are part of the Give Us a Shot network, and we go live Tuesdays or Wednesdays. It depends on my schedule because I'm a firefighter, so it rotates. But typically Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 8:15 to 8:30. This week, Bert's in London, so I'm going to have Marcus. I'm going to have Steezy. I'm going to have Justin in. Maybe JT and the Don, but Payton, Blaine, Neil, if you're free, it's a super show. I'm working on the stuff, so just hit me up on the message machine and we'll get you in there. But I'm looking for Wednesday at about 8:15. We're gonna do our super show. So if you're interested, but yeah, at Stuff About Sports, hashtag Stuff About Sports wherever you get your podcast and type it into your Googles. And if you can't find us, you're not looking hard enough. And follow Steezy, follow This Just In, Final Whistle, GTP Marcus, and Payton Doyle.
Yeah, and for myself, I've had a little bit of an APB out for my own self because of this move to Spokane, Washington. Sorry, Steezy, I'm on the other side of Washington. So I haven't been able to do much. Actually, I am doing my first show back is this weekend, so be on the lookout for that. I'm going to be talking my Warriors, as always. Going to be hyping up on that, and we'll see if Colorado closes out Tampa Bay tonight. I personally don't think so, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay comes back from 3-1. That'll be my hot take to leave there. Don't be surprised if Tampa Bay goes for the three-peat. But you can catch me at the Final Dot Whistle on Instagram and on TikTok, Final Whistle Sports Pod on Facebook, and then you can catch me on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, you name it. I'm pretty much on it all. So look out. Content's going to be coming out now. But I've been mooching off of Marcus's show for like the last 3 weeks because I can't get my own show together. So I've just been heckling on his show. Always follow the boys. They do great work as well. So
the hope is I can get through this outro without this luring light falling. Because if I can't, I'll riot.
My lights have just been going in and out the entire hour and a half. So
I'm too black to do an outro in the dark. These gentlemen are fantastic. I appreciate all of them for coming on. This was originally not supposed to be a 6-person show, but here it is. And you sat here, and in the words of Draymond Green, you listened to this podcast, so it doesn't really matter. I didn't forget about the draft. Draft show is coming out next week. I need some time to process. I have no shame in admitting that I don't like the NBA draft because all the trades make things so confusing. And I was utterly confused last night with all of the moves that were occurring. I do know that the Pistons won the draft, but I'll talk about that next week with a special guest coming on the show. Broncos show dropped with Steezy today. We got into an hour-long argument about Super Bowl contenders. Check that out. Seahawks, Commanders, and Vikings coming out next week. Money in the Bank is also next week. It's just going to be busy, so make sure you follow on everything. So for Payton Doyle, the Payton Doyle Show, Steezy A. Smith, Mr. Neil Hoyt, Jerem, one half of Stuff About Sports, and Blaine Spencer, the Final Whistle Sports Pod. This is Marcus of Go Talk with Marcus signing off. Thank you for watching, and as always, you guys enjoy the rest of your lives. And stay off drugs.